once heard a preacher declare from the pulpit, "If only one person goes to heaven, I want it to be me." This particular man believed in hell too. Yet he wasn't hoping that his wife or one of his children might get to go to heaven and find peace and escape the tortures of the fiery pit. No, he wanted to be the special one in Daddy's eyes. When my son Seth was 5 years old, a floor lamp fell over and the light went out. I rushed to pick up the lamp, but in the dark, I accidentally touched Seth's mouth with the lamp. It burned his lip pretty bad. But you know what he said after he stopped crying? He said he was glad that he was the one who got hurt and it wasn't his little sister. Now, he had a 3-year-old brother too, but his concern was for the weakest member of the family. That's the empathy this little 5-year-old boy had. Yet a grown preacher who supposedly had been transformed into the image of a God didn't possess or exhibit that kind of love for his own family. A woman once told me that nobody would be good if there were no hell. Now, I shouldn't have to explain how disturbing that is. I should say that once it was pointed out to her that it wasn't really cool to be obedient only out of fear of hell. She did claim that she, of course, would be good, but other people wouldn't. A man said that if he wasn't a believer in Yahweh, he would be looking for ways to enjoy his life to the fullest without getting in trouble with the law, only because he wouldn't want to spend any of his life in prison. He claimed that he wouldn't have any incentive to do what's right. Think about that. This Christian, a man who is supposedly transformed by the renewing of his mind so that he was pure and godly, says he would just basically do anything he wanted as long as he didn't get punished for it. No worries about the people who might be hurt along the way, I suppose. There is no incentive to do what's right, he said. That's what the doctrine of hell does to people. It turns them that way. To believe the tenets and practice the theology of a hell-based religion, people have no choice but to be cold-hearted and brutal, caring only for themselves. Romans 12:17-21 says not to pay back evil with more evil. If we take revenge, it tells us we have been conquered by evil ourselves. Yet Yahweh, it declares, will most certainly pay back evil and take revenge. So, does that mean he's been conquered by evil? This passage is basically saying, don't take revenge, my little minions. Stand back and stand by and watch me set your enemies on fire. Keep your hands clean, but you just hang on to that vengeance in your heart and know that I'll make them pay. And it'll be worse than anything you could ever do. Following a God who plans to torture anybody who doesn't believe in him is the epitome of self-interest, the archetype of an egotism that would be unfathomable if it weren't connected to a God. Imagine doing the bidding of a king who promises you riches when he gasses everybody who won't bow down to him and fawn over him like you do. Christians who believe in hell generally understand when it's a human doing this, but when it's a God, they lose all sense of right and wrong. When it has to do with a God, it suddenly becomes a beautiful story. Remember Rahab the harlot? She betrayed her people to save her own hide. She was to the people of Jericho what Benedict Arnold is to the people of the United States. She hid Israelite spies when they promised to keep her and anybody in her house alive when they took the land. And Christians view her as a wonderful and faithful woman. No, she was unfaithful to her own people. She thought Jericho was going down, and she committed treason to save herself and her loved ones. And of course, the Jews praised her in their stories. She was on their side. But the people of Jericho didn't see it that way, and rightfully so. And let me tell you, when those warriors came calling, surrounding the city, and making the walls come tumbling down, those mothers in Jericho wept and wailed for their babies, the same as the Israelite mothers did in Egypt. We get all teary-eyed talking about Rachel weeping for her children. But nobody cares about the weeping mothers of Jericho and the crying mothers and children of all the other tribes that Israel callously murdered. Because to Christians, not all lives matter. The only lives that matter are the ones that honor and revere Yahweh. I wrote a little story, which is in my book, Yahweh on Trial. It's called Christy. Well, it's about Christy, who's a Christian, and her friend Athea, an atheist. And Christy is the one telling the story. The gods are Yahweh and Jesus with their names spelled backwards. Christy and Athea. My name is Christy. I worship the God Huhe and have faith in his son Ossie, my Savior. Ossie loves me and has promised to marry me soon. Since he is royalty, I'll become a princess. Ossie will bestow upon me amazingly expensive gifts, including a huge mansion. I'll even rule with him over my fellow human beings. What joy that will be! It will especially be nice to have authority over the humans who don't like me. Payback time! My best friend is Athea. Athea was raised by parents who aren't followers of Huhe and Ossie. So Athea can't bring herself to believe in a supernatural being who can see her when she's sleeping, knows when she's awake, and knows when she's been good or bad. When Ossie comes for me, he's going to torture Athea. He says he'll put out both her eyes, break her legs so that she can never walk again, and beat her in the head until she has the mind of a 2-year-old and will sit around all day and night drooling all over herself. She won't be able to sleep either, and Ossie says he'll make sure she can never die, so she'll have to suffer like that forever. Athea's a good person, the best person I know. She loves everybody and does all she can to help others. I've never heard her say an unkind thing about anybody, and she's been my best friend since kindergarten. But I know, because somebody wrote it in a book, that Ossie is right to inflict great punishment and suffering on my friend Athea. I told her she should believe, so it'll be her own fault when Ossie pounces on her and beats the living daylights out of her. Does it all make sense to me? No, not really. Truth be told, I cannot imagine a God who would reward my complete and total narcissism. Although I know Ossie plans to bring down unfathomable pain and misery on my best friend just because she wasn't raised to believe in him and can't accept fantastic stories written by humans who know no more than she does, I still long for him to come quickly so I can be rewarded with pleasures. I look forward with great anticipation to watching my friend endure terrible abuse and mistreatment just so I myself can live a life of ease and gratification. So yeah, it doesn't seem right, but I know it is. I must deserve Ossie's goodness since I believe in him, while Athea deserves his wrath because she doesn't. So I will praise Ossie for his vengeance and holy righteousness in torturing my dear Athea, because it's what she has merited, whether I understand it or not. Ossie's thoughts are not my thoughts. Obviously, I simply can't understand concepts like justice and the difference between right and wrong. But, whew, whatever the reasons, I'm glad it's Thea being punished and me being rewarded. I'm so excited. Please come quickly, Ossie. I'm going to be a princess. I'll receive amazing gifts. I'll live in a mansion and rule over other people who will be forced to bow down and grovel to me. Praise Ossie. He is awesome because he is good to me. Thank you for watching. Bye.